Hello and welcome to another episode of R&R's Ask the Expert. I'm Kayla McGowan, editor-in-chief, and today we are talking about the trick to successfully launching software in human psychology. Our special guest is Travis Parker Martin. He is the vice president and product manager at KnowHow. So without further delay, welcome, Travis.
Hey, Kayla, so good to reconnect and really looking forward to this discussion today.
Yeah, me too. I think it's a good discussion to have because technology, AI, platforms, software, all of these things are at the forefront of what we do every day. And I think it poses a lot of questions for us as, vendors in the space, but also the restorers who are being introduced to said technology and things like that. So with so much changing in our industry, not just with the standards and the softwares, why do you think that so many restoration companies are failing to successfully adopt to these types of changes?
It's such a good question, and it's a tale as old as time. I can tell you from experience, technology will come and go. My guess is 5 years from now, we're not going to be talking about AI as much as we're talking about it right now. One thing that will not change, whether it's 2,000 years ago or 2,000 years from now, is humans. And humans are what your company is dependent on. And this is, hey, maybe this is controversial. Maybe Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, right, with ChatGPT, is like, actually, I'm trying to get rid of humans. But I don't think that's the case. I think humans are sticking around. I think humans are going to be pivotal in the restoration industry for a long time. And that's why when initiatives fail, whether that is rolling out a new safety policy, or rolling out new software, whether that's KnowHow or Cotality or Encircle or any other piece of software, when it fails, it's usually not a technology issue. It's usually a human issue. It's at its most fundamental level. I, as the leader, have failed to get my team to see why they should care about this technology, why they should care about AI-powered SOP software like KnowHow, or why they should care about these new safety standards or the new way that we put on PPE. Ultimately, this is a human issue. And when you can get humans all marching in the right direction, holy smokes, the things your company can accomplish, right? Successful leaders will tell you, if I can communicate the vision clearly, if I can get everyone on board, we can do incredible things. And the flip side of that coin is when you fail to get humans on board, when you fail to appeal to what motivates to each team member, man, it feels like there is sand in the gears and you can't get anything done. And that's why I think this human issue of motivation, psychology, how do you get people to care about the things you put in front of them is underlying the success of every initiative, whether it's a new technology rollout or some other initiative that you see as important as a leader to get your team to go where you want them to go.
Yeah, and I would definitely say you said that very well. I too have said the same thing about, AI is just going to be part of our everyday thing lives at in 5 years from now. And we'll be talking about some other hot topic, right? If we look at the history of not just our industry, but all industries, there's software technologies, equipment, culture, right? Culture is a big topic right now, where maybe culture 10 years ago wasn't really a topic. And so, the the foundation and fundamentals of that does go back to just human nature, human communication, the way people understand and interpret things. And that's where things can break down, right? To your point. So, I know that you guys at Know How work with a lot of very high profile networks and brands, many of whom have some reputations as innovators in this industry. And, what do you see that these companies do well that others struggle with? And I think you kind of touched on it a little bit, but maybe there's some key call outs there that you guys see that maybe somebody here listening could maybe capitalize on and do a little bit better in their business.
Yeah. Yeah. If you are listening to this and you're familiar with know-how, yeah, let me just like pull behind the curtain a little bit. We've got a lot of companies that work with us, and a lot of companies have said, hey, know-how has had a transformative effect on how we equip our staff, how we onboard new people, how we ensure that our workers have the right answers out in the field in the moment when they need them. And the common denominator between those success stories, frankly, it's not just because, well, our software is super awesome and all you have to do is buy your super awesome software and we'll solve all your problems and, bring world peace. I would love to say that's the case. We're working on the world peace thing. But the common denominator is leaders who think about all the people that play a role in the outcome they're trying to achieve. So let's say, for example, why does someone come to KnowHow? Well, they come to KnowHow and they buy KnowHow because they're saying, we want all of our staff to sing from the same hymn book here. We want everyone, whether they're at location X or location Y, or on the job site in the north or job site in the south, or at our franchise location in the southeast versus the northwest. We want them all to do things the company way. And we want them to have instant access to that. So then they think, okay, so who plays a role in us achieving that outcome? Certainly, uh, every manager needs to understand why they should redirect questions from just picking up the phone. Hey, Steve, I know I've told you this 100 times over the last day and a half here, but this is how you solve this DHU issue, to the estimator understanding why doing things the company way benefits them, to the technicians out in the field saying, this is why instead of calling my manager every time I run into an issue, I should open up KnowHow and use KnowHow's AI answers based on my company playbook to get that answer instead. So the leader who's rolling this out has said, what is the benefit to the technician to doing things the company way? And they've thought through that, and then they've communicated that to the technician. And let me just call out some really great examples that I've seen from customers of ours that I think they're world-class innovators, not because they pick innovative software, even though they do, but it's because they think about how they can leverage human psychology and what motivates people to do things the company way. So great example, Steve Glozik, FP Property Restoration down in Florida, 6 locations. Steve has a training and development culture at FP Property Restoration. And when he rolled out KnowHow 2 or 3 years ago, his pitch to people was, hey, if you want promotions, your promotions are in KnowHow. If you care about career growth, your career growth is in KnowHow. If you're a water technician and you want to be an estimator, him and I were on a call yesterday, and he was telling me he'll go into KnowHow and he'll see his estimators, or sorry, his water technicians that want to become estimators start training themselves up on estimating processes. They're training themselves up on how to use Symbility more. They're doing this of their own volition. And he's told them, hey, if you want that career growth, if you want that wage bump, don't just come to me and say, hey, I think you should pay me $3 more an hour because I'm awesome and I've been here for 2 years. Go get that promotion. Go take yourself from a water technician to an estimator, train yourself up in it, and then show me your completed training workflow on how to be an estimator. And then we'll go out into the field. You can show me that you know what you've learned on paper. And yeah, let's talk about it. That's great. He's put the keys in the hands of his staff. Another great example is Alpine Restoration in Lehi, Utah. Uh, every role, they've got 3 tiers for every role: an apprentice, a journeyman, and an expert. And so you're hired, and regardless of what you get paid, whether you're a PM or a water tech, you start off as an apprentice. And then as you train yourself up in the company processes and know-how, and as you prove your competency through our testing, you move from an apprentice to a journeyman, and then there's a pay bump. And you move from a journeyman to an expert. And again, there's a pay bump. What are they doing? They're not just saying, hey, everyone, there's a cool new app, download it. There's like some funky AI stuff that you can have fun playing with. That's not what they're doing. They're saying, you, the worker, you care about growing your skills. You care about growing your career. You care about putting away money so you can afford a down payment on a home, or paying for piano lessons or baseball lessons for your kids. That's what you care about. And here's how this initiative that we're rolling out, getting everyone to do things the company way, is directly connected to your ability to grow your skills and grow your career and pay for your kids' baseball lessons. And so that link is super clear, right? They've understood how every worker, every level of the organization benefits from doing things the company way. That's how they're able to get buy-in.
Yeah, and I would definitely say if you're leveraging these types of softwares, technologies, and platforms to fit your business model. I actually just wrote a piece on this. Like you must be in my head. I just wrote a piece about training, right? And what training does to your culture and the levels of training that we have, whether it's technical or maybe specific processes and procedures, your staff feels like they're invested in, and then they buy in to whatever your mission is and, excelling in that particular company, not just the industry at that point, but your company. And hearing people leverage know-how this way is very interesting because I think most people who see a software technology are like, oh, new shiny thing, right? How can I use it? And that's unfortunately where we see the downfall of implementation. So you've talked a little bit about scenarios. I want to throw a scenario out there. Okay.
Okay,
So you
let's
can
do it.
kind of let's see what we come up with here. So,
Mhm.
there's a leader who is like super pumped about this specific software, maybe a new initiative going into, a new year, right? We're at that time of year where we're strategizing and we're planning for 2026. And they're thinking, hey, this is going to definitely transform our company, our vision. And they put themselves out there kind of on the chopping block, if you will, in order to kind of roll this said software or new initiative out. But let's fast forward to the future in a year and nothing has changed. What
Yeah.
happened here? Where did it break?
Yeah. It's, you know what, the amount of bodies, so to speak, of like failed software initiatives and not even software, right? Fast, like a rewind 40 years ago, these were like cultural changes. Hey, everyone, we're introducing a new values system, right? Or we've got this, I don't know, fax machine. This is how we're going to all use the fax machine. It's going to transform our lives, right? It's not a technology thing. It's not a software thing. It's a human thing. So I think a great question is when you have strong conviction in your company, this is going to make a difference. And let's assume that in theory it could make that difference. It's not because the product is faulty, but you fail to, over the course of a year, see that difference. What ultimately happened, I would argue, you failed to communicate to everyone in the organization why they should care about this as much as you do. And the hard part is they have different priorities than you, right? Your project coordinator, your admin assistant, your CEO, your GM, they all have different priorities. Now, not every software is going to transform every role. The unique thing about know-how is it's so like the backbone of an organization. We literally touch every role. We benefit the admins, we benefit the water techs, we benefit the GMs, but not every software is going to be that case. But the people you need to really buy in and see success in order to accomplish the outcomes that you're purchasing with the software, so to speak, ultimately you fail to get them to see what they needed to see in order to have that make that difference that you wanted to. Such a great example. I was listening to a podcast from an investor once. We're in the tech space, so we're the venture capitalists, all that stuff, all these like tech stories, the Airbnbs, the Stripes, the Ubers. And so I remember a VC telling the story of Airbnb. Brian Chesky, founder of Airbnb, came into his office back when like Airbnb was just literally a place where you could stay, borrow a mattress and sleep on Brian's floor. And he had this idea. He's like, oh, it's this thing where, you can just like sleep on other people's mattresses. And if we can all rewind 15 years ago, that was a pretty insane proposition that you would go to like a total stranger's home and just like sleep on their couch. And so this investor was naturally skeptical. And then when Brian came in to say, hey, I need to raise 500,000, a million or something like that, will you be the first check in? Brian had no idea what he was doing. The slides didn't work. He like articulated very poorly the value proposition and how big Airbnb could be. And so this investor, probably like 98% of smart investors back in 2009, said, yeah, I'm going to pass. Sorry, man. Like I think that this is way too risky of a business. Well, fast forward 15 years, we obviously know that Airbnb is an incredibly, incredibly valuable company. This guy would have become a billionaire had he seen what was so hard to see in the moment. And reflecting on that, what this VC, what this venture capitalist investor said was not, well, if Ryan's pitch had been better or if his slides had been better, I would have been a billionaire. He said, I have to get better at seeing what people are trying to communicate and speaking the same language as them and understanding the vision. Because if I could have done a better job in that situation, my life would be vastly different now. And he took such responsibility for the communication, and that he said, even though this founder had no idea what he's doing and his idea was super rough, I am the one that suffered because I couldn't see it, even though I think he took a very rational position in the moment. And that level of ownership has been really informative for me. I can just tell you, like, with volunteer groups that I'm a part of within KnowHow, if I've got deep conviction about something, it's my responsibility to go to each person that plays a role in helping bring this vision to life and say, this is why this is so important, and this is why you should care about it. I was at a job site earlier today, and someone was explaining know-how. The GM was explaining know-how, and frankly, I could see that a few of his water techs, they just didn't care. They were on their phones, they were scrolling, and I was like, man, this he's gonna have a hard time because he has just not bridged the gap to communicating to his water technicians, communicating to his estimators. This is why this is going to transform how we do things. As a water tech, this is the way your life is going to get better. And so that was a very long way of me answering the question. Most of the time, when these initiatives fail to realize what they could, there's two faults. Either the product was just not good enough, you were oversold a bill of goods. We take that very seriously. And know-how, I think a lot of other software companies in the industry, they take that very seriously. You're not going to oversell. Sometimes it happens, but I think a lot of times what happens is just the human factor. Things just break down on a human level. And I didn't do a good job sitting down with my estimator, looking my PM in the eye and saying like, hey, PM, I know that you care deeply about efficiency and making sure we fulfill our promises to our customers. Let me tell you how this new software is going to give us a far better ability to hit our promises to our customers than the way it was before. And this is why you should care about it too. It's a basic human thing. And I think no technology is going to change how important that human to human connection and connecting what I care about to what you care about in order to collectively hit the goals we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and I was going to say too, sometimes there's that assumption piece, if you will. Like, hey, if I'm telling you what this does, I assume that you know it's going to fix a lot of our problems instead of saying the reason why we're implementing it is because of what you just said, right? And I also think too, sometimes asking your staff, how do you think you're going to leverage this software? Again, the buy-in factor, the communication factor, it all layers into the success or the failure of things that you're adopting or implementing, which is really big. And that what you just used about Airbnb, I mean, gosh, looking back, I'm sure he wish he would have asked more questions, right?
Yeah.
If he would have asked more questions, he may be sitting in a different seat. But now that venture allowed him to see things in a different light, right? And so when he is approached with opportunities, he will adjust, right? And that's kind of what we have to do. And that's why we're talking about this is just, hey, it's not that you're not doing a good job. Maybe it's just the way you're explaining it. It may be just a small little tweak of explanation, or maybe looping in your team on those demos, or, to ask questions, because again, your team may have questions that you just haven't thought of. And it's really important to make sure that you understand, okay, if this doesn't implement the way that it's supposed to, what does that mean? Because that setback is totally different than what you could ever anticipate, I think. And 12 months is a long time. That's a whole year of one not handling it properly, but now you have to go back to the drawing board. And are you still going to use the same software? If you are, now you have to have a different approach. And so now you're 24 months behind instead of 12 months, essentially, from the competitor, if you will. And so I think just looking at it in that way will really help people because, again, if we know that the human connection doesn't go away and it starts with leadership, then the implementation process should be really easy at that point if we have that human to human interaction. So, how can leaders get their team members to really buy in? We've talked about this a little bit. I mentioned it as well. How can we get them to buy into new initiatives, and what do they really have to consider about their team's mindset so that they might not, so that even though if they're not considering it now, they will.
Yeah. All humans are motivated in some form of another some form or another by one of three things. And there's just been a ton of research done about this. Really great books. Daniel Kahneman is a researcher who did a lot in this area of human psychology. Daniel Pink is another one. He has a great book called Drive. I know a lot of leaders in the restoration industry have referenced it. They're all motivated by, we're all motivated by one of three things or a combination. What you would call autonomy, or the ability for me to control my fate, what we would call mastery, my ability to grow and improve, or purpose, right? Where do I find a deeper meaning in this activity, right? So maybe just to drill into each of these a little bit. When we talk about that autonomy or being able to control my fate, that's what Steve Glozik at FP Property Restoration did, right? He said, if you want to go from a water technician to an estimator, from an estimator to a PM, the keys are in your hands, man. Go for it. This is the path to do it. I'm going to let you choose. That's why we love games like Deal or No Deal, right? It's because the weight of the decision is what makes it motivating. You can imagine it just would not be very interesting game if they just said, "Oh, by the way, this is suitcase four. We opened it for you. You're out of the game." Right? It's the weight of I have to choose. Am I going to go through this or not? And as humans, we love that choose your own adventure. Our ability to say, if I want to get a promotion, if I want to grow in this skill, if I want to pick up guitar or pick up cooking, I have the ability to do that. I can choose it. And a ton of research has been done when it comes to training, when it comes to rolling out initiatives. I think there's a baseline. Hey, everyone has to know this safety training. But if you want to be the safety expert in our company, here's how you can go above and beyond. I'm not forcing you to be the safety expert in our company. You can choose to be the safety expert. You can be the Xactimate guru in our company, and it's your choice. And yeah, there's a pay bump associated with that. We'll fly you out to Utah to do some special training. Your resume is going to look better as a result. The choice is yours. But what you do is you give people that sense of power and control, and that's something all of us crave. Second, you think of that the desire for that we all have for mastery, right? To grow and improve. This is why things like weightlifting, people enjoy so much, or gaining new skills, guitar, piano, woodworking, even video games with experience points. As a child of the late 90s, early 2000s, Pokemon, they totally nailed this formula, right? It's the more I invest in it, the more powerful my Pokemon become, right? And that's why so many video games are addicting, is because they appeal to this base level desire that we all have to grow and improve and get stronger over time. So Alpine Restoration in Lehigh, Utah, great example, right? You come in, you're level one. And then over time, if you invest in yourself, you go from being an apprentice to a journeyman. And then you go from a journeyman to being an expert. But again, combining those two, mastery and autonomy, it's in the hands of the staff. You're giving them the keys and you're letting them choose. Hey, my usage of know-how is tied to my own desire to grow my career and grow my skills. And then finally, that purpose and meaning, this is behind a lot of political movements, and even the most effective leaders. Why are the effective leaders effective? There's this quote from when the US was in the space race in the 1960s, right? And there's a story, maybe you recall, John F. Kennedy was saying, by the end of the decade, we are going to have a man on the moon. And some reporter was walking around the White House in the early 1960s, 8 years before they ended up on the moon. And the reporter asked the janitor sweeping, he's like, "Oh, what are you doing? Are you just cleaning the West Wing here?" And the janitor said, "No, I'm not cleaning the West Wing. I'm helping put a man on the moon." The janitor understood how his small actions of cleaning the West Wing contributed to this larger vision and movement that he was a part of. When you as a leader are able to communicate how workers can grow, how they can put themselves in a position where they can continue to grow their skills, grow their careers, and how this initiative, whether it's a safety initiative or a new software rollout, connects to the bigger things that they are hope that you are working towards in a company and that motivate them, whether that's having an impact in their community, building strong connections with the team. That's how you're able to take seemingly small tasks like sweeping the West Wing and motivate people to go the extra mile regardless of their role.
Yeah, and I was going to say it's very practical, right? We're allowing our teams to hold their futures in their own hands. We're not dictating it. Their drive, motivation, and will is what's actually driving that. And I think, the two examples that you gave are great because that's an expectation set on day one, right? Hey, if you want to become a journeyman or an expert, or you'd like to go from a technician to estimating, here are the keys to success. It's your choice. Now, granted, some people in our space like to stay at the technician level. They love that type of work, but it doesn't mean that they couldn't still excel to maybe understand how estimating works a little bit better so they could do their job a little better. To your point, just sweeping the West Wing is not just sweeping the West Wing, it's for a bigger picture. And that's what all of our staff plays in the big picture. They all have a role that points to a direction or a goal that we've had set, right? And I think most of it is customer service based. We want to provide the best service and restore homes and lives as best as we can. And so that is instilled in everybody, right? So it's practical. I think sometimes when we look at things like software or technology or maybe a new initiative, we think it's really harder than it really is. It's really not. It's what you're saying is actually fairly easy to do and to implement. And again, people allow to have that control. They like to have that control factor, right? The deal or no deal was a great example because I think about it this way, right? You go to a new company, or maybe you're sitting in one of these companies that has know-how as a foundation for you to excel. And you're told, hey, if you'd like to do this, go ahead and look through our library and understand and learn more about these positions. You may have a technician who actually really wants to do marketing. You just never knew. They just happened to come across those materials. And so I also like that viewpoint too, because like you mentioned, you encompass the entire company. It's not just those who are in the trade specifically, which allows you to promote within. That's a battle that I think is really hard to find people to come into our industry to perform at the levels that we're looking for at PM, marketing, sales. I mean, even the technician level, it's really hard to find. So when you're providing them these tools, it makes it an easier process for you as the business owner, right? I mean, I don't know what success those two examples have seen, but it makes it a little bit easier because the buy-in, they understand the way your company works. And now you're able to, again, have that buy-in and promote within, which is definitely something that is a competitive advantage, if you will. Have you seen it that way?
100%. Oh yeah, you can just imagine, right? When you have got a team of 20 people or 40 people or 60 people or 150 people, and they all see why they should go the extra mile. How me representing the brand well benefits my career, it benefits the team culture, it benefits my ability to provide for my family. When you've got an army of people who are bought in like that, you can move mountains. We often hear at KnowHow, I think our team culture is one of the more exceptional things about KnowHow, and we often have people think that our team size is about 4 to 5 times as big as it is because we just have created a culture where people understand every initiative, whether it's you and I chatting on a podcast like this, Kayla, or us showing up to set up a booth at a conference, or us walking through Restorers how to use the software better, when they understand how that connects to the bigger things that we're trying to achieve as a company, the bigger difference we want to make in the world, when people understand, hey, this is why I should respond to that email as fast as possible, or this is why I should hop on a Zoom call if someone's having trouble logging in or something like that. It makes a world of difference, and it really creates a culture where a company can punch above its weight and do way more than a company that size should. And so it absolutely is going to have a transformative effect on your revenue, on your bottom line, because you can just imagine how much easier it is to retain talented staff when you have a culture where high performers look around and they see other people who really care about doing an excellent job as well, who are competent and confident out on the job site or in the office makes a world of difference.
It really does. And I will definitely say, now that we're talking about this and we've provided some great information, many people may think like, what can I do in the coming days? I'm inspired. So out of all of this, what is some maybe one or two practical action items that you can provide for those who are listening that they can do Monday morning? I mean, or even tomorrow morning if they wanted to. What would you, provide them as far as insight wise?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm not going to take the easy answer here, Kayla. Easy answer would be like, oh, sign up for Know How, all your problems will be solved. Here, I'm going to go the hardest route possible. So if you're listening to this, think about someone in your organization who you would call a detractor. Someone who, when you are rolling out an initiative, you just feel friction. You're like, I know these three people in the company, they're going to get it right away. These, 17, 20, 30 people, they're influenced one way or the other. I think I can get them on board. And then these five or six people, they're just always dragging their feet. And I remember this came from a conversation I had with Chuck Lane, formerly at Blue Sky, led the L&D team, or one of the leaders of the learning and development team at Blue Sky. And he said the key to getting those people on board, it's this little secret called the water cooler. Maybe you've heard of it. It's connecting as a human with these people, right? And it's just finding out, hey man, what's important to you? Like you've been with the company for 18 months now, 24 months now. Tell me, like, why are you here? What motivates you to show up day in and day out? What do you care about, right? And then maybe there's like, oh, I'm here for a paycheck, right?
Mhm.
Maybe not, hopefully not, but maybe that's the case. Like, okay, well, tell me, what is it? Are you saving up for something? Right? I know you've got kids in school. Are they showing any interest in sports? Connect that paycheck to what's important to them, right? And then all of a sudden, now you know this is what's motivating this human. And so if I'm going to get Steve the cynic on board, here's what I'm going to need to do. I'm going to need to show him how adopting our safety standards is going to help us earn more revenue and retain more of our bottom line because we don't have these safety issues we have to deal with that's going to drain a bunch of our profit. And that's connected to how much revenue, how many bonuses we can make. And if I can tie that line together, again, sometimes these people, they get it right away. Other times it's a slow process, but it happens through relationship. It happens through understanding your people and what motivates them. And so, again, this is not some like 3D chess move that is going to blow the socks off anyone. I apologize if you were waiting for like some transformative advice that was going to give you a hockey stick or your revenue, but I'm telling you, it's humans, right? It's humans. It's knowing what motivates people, both at a high level, like we talked about with autonomy, mastery, and purpose, and then at the individual level, trying to connect each of your workers and understand what's important and motivates them. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a sense of belonging. Hey, I've got these four other people on my team, and they're cynical about everything, and so I'm cynical about everything. Not because I'm cynical, but because I just like being part of the group. And
Yeah.
okay, all right, that's very interesting. What if I paired you up with these few people that care a lot about doing a great job? Maybe that's all you need, right? It's understanding the motivations of your people.
Yeah, and I will definitely say it seems so simplistic, but yet it can be one of the hardest things to do because you also have that barrier of people not wanting to share either because it's human nature like, oh, what, where are you digging? That's just human nature, right? So it seems so simplistic, but also there's challenges of just human nature, right? Some people are very guarded, and to your point, he may or she may say, oh, I'm just here to collect a check. Well, what does that look like? To your point, are you saving for something? Maybe it's, hey, I'd like to have a 4-day work week instead of a 5-day work week. Those types of things do motivate your team. Or it may be as simple as, hey, I'd like to be included in understanding what this new initiative or software technology does. It can really be that simple, and it doesn't cost you anything, right? You can wake up
Yeah, yeah.
tomorrow and go and implement this, or if it's a weekend for you and you're listening to this, come Monday morning, maybe that's how you lead a conversation. And maybe it's a company-wide initiative to maybe build a stronger culture. And then you'll have your PMs and your managers and everybody else saying, hey, this is what we're hearing. So it's not just on your shoulders. Leverage your team as well, right? If you instill these values into your leadership, it'll trickle down and you'll have some sense of where you can go and how to explain things for the future, right? Right now is strategic planning time for 2026. So these were really great tips and a great insight into, how we as humans actually play such a crucial role in our everyday jobs in life. The software technology initiatives, they're all great, but at the end of the day, it involves people, right?
And Kayla, if I can just emphasize one thing to close out, because I think it was such an important point that you just made. If you are saying, okay, so the playbook is to just find out what these people care about so that I can leverage that to get them to where they want to go, you're going to have limited success. What underlies all of this is like a deep fundamental caring for your people as humans first. And that's a hard thing to fake, right? I think you can manufacture it, you can cover up over it, but it's going to feel manipulative. A great example, my brother works in the kitchen industry, and the kitchen industry does not have a great reputation for like treating people as humans, as anyone who's watched Gordon Ramsay or anything like that knows. And I remember him telling me the story of this one chef who he was like a Michelin starred chef my brother worked with, and he would sit down with someone and he would take them out for coffee, new chef on the job, right, or new cook in the kitchen, like, so tell me about yourself, tell me about your background, tell me about your family. And the cook would be like, wow, this is really nice, this guy really cares about me. And what he was actually doing, this is awful, I can't believe, like, but he was just getting ammunition so
Mhm.
that in the intensity of the moment, he now had personal things he could leverage to try to get his cooks to do what he wanted to do. It was it was very like repulsive morally, in my opinion, what he would do. And I don't think anyone in the industry acts that way. But I think what the inverse of that is, I would encourage you. I would ask yourself, do I want to know what motivates these people just so I can kind of get them to go in the right direction as a company?
Yeah.
Or do I want to know what motivates them because I care for them as a human, and they're made in the image of God. They're important. I believe that they have fundamental value, and I can help get them to where they want to go if I understand what's important to them. And then I can help us all get to go together to where our company is trying to go. We can do both at the same time, but I need to understand that. So I think, Kayla, that part of knowing and caring deeply about your people is such a fundamental layer. And you're going to run into a ceiling if that doesn't exist underneath all of this.
Yeah, 100%. I will definitely say you can tell if someone's being genuine or not. And I really think that this is another way to build your team, if I'm being quite honest. Use this and leverage this as a team building
Yeah.
opportunity, right? It's almost like an icebreaker, but one that helps you understand the way people think and function, but also treat them like a human, right? To your point, it's very important, obviously, because we spend most of our time with people we work with. Honestly, we really do. We spend a majority of our time with the people we work with opposed to our family. And if they don't feel like it's coming from a great place, then it's forceful. And so to your point, self-reflect as a leader too. Hey, how can I leverage this in a way that is genuine and authentic, right? And you may look inside and say, hey, I really don't really want to know really about their family life but I want to know what would help motivate them to go to the next level. And that could be a totally different conversation, but have the same outcome that you're looking for in the success of implementation and initiatives, but also just building again that company culture and, that person to person interaction. Again, AI technology will never take place of that, as Travis and I both mentioned. But thank you so much, Travis. Any last thoughts before we say goodbye to everybody?
I think this is a super valuable skill. And if you've made it this far in the podcast, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I think it's because you fundamentally care about the humans on your team, which is the foundational layer. I think when people know that they are cared for by their leadership, they're willing to extend grace and forgive, when we get things wrong as leaders. I think if you can show that you care for your people first, there is room to break some things along the way, figure some things out, not get it perfect. And so I just want to commend you. Hey, if you care about your people, you've got the right foundation there, and it's just building on top of things after that.
Well said. I don't have anything to add on top of that. Mic drop there, Travis. But as always, thank you all for listening, and we will see you on the next episode of Ask the Expert. Take care.